And I just want to start out by talking about a story in my life where I went traveling when I was 18 for the first time. I'd saved up a load of money from fishing on the west coast of Canada, and I went off to Africa for 6 months and had all sorts of adventures there, exploring the jungle and wildlife and culture, and eventually went back to Canada. And when I was in Canada again, I'd noticed that I'd created a space in myself, but it hadn't been filled by anything. Meaning that I wasn't, before I went traveling, I wasn't happy with what I was living. And then I went traveling to Africa, and there was a space there within me now, and I hadn't filled it with something that I really found valuable. And in a sense, the space is truly valuable because you can fill it with anything. And in my next travels, I went off to Asia. I went to Thailand and India, and I ended up traveling to India and buying an old motorbike, 1942 BSA, and I drove off into the mountains, and I did one meditation retreat, and I just, for 10 days, I just watched my breath and did nothing but watch my breath for 10 days and practice Vipassana meditation, the inside meditation. And somehow this was very inspiring for me. Somehow this opened up a whole new world for me. And in a way it just honored more the space that had been opened without filling it with anything, without filling it with spiritual paraphernalia or spiritual concepts or spiritual dogma or spiritual experiences even. But for 10 days I watched my own suffering that I had avoided my whole life. And I didn't even know that that suffering existed till I sat with it for 10 days. And then I knew for certain, okay, suffering exists. Like, I was suffering. And in a sense, I simultaneously became much more free of it. I had a very decent technique to watch the mind, to watch the pain, to watch the discomfort of the sensation of the body. And in a sense, that was not what I was looking for. That was, in a way, a tool to start looking. And on the journey from then on, I started to actually see little bits here and there what I was actually looking for. And that seeing, obviously, is a very personal thing. And in a way, it was just an intimacy with who I am. And an intimacy with who we all are, an intimacy with life, in a sense. First, an intimacy with the inner reality, and then subsequently an intimacy with everything that is affected and touched by that inner reality. And in a way, the inner reality is fully the outer reality. And in a way, the inner reality becomes the outer reality. You come to a clarity within, and that clarity carries over into the whole world. In a sense, into the whole existence. And in a sense, that clarity is you. In a sense, that clarity is not a separation from who you are. The imagined self, shall we say, the somewhat egoic self, is, first of all, the egoic self, it sees itself as a concept, almost like a fixed entity. Even if it's like some fancy personality that's very eclectic and versatile and avant-garde, it's still a fixed entity. It's I amness. And in order, shall we say, to enter real meditation or real inside meditation, you almost drop into the deeper I amness, the amness of life itself. And that's more a becoming than a meditation. Meditation has the attachment of spirituality with it, in a way. The idea that you have to sit there and do a special technique. And for sure, for me, it was very helpful, and for many it's very helpful to sit and do a certain technique. And eventually, one of the more advanced techniques, shall we say Zen technique, is just sitting and doing nothing. Just sitting. Not meditating, not meditating, not watching the breath, not watching the mind, not fighting the mind, not seeing the mind, not having insights, not being spiritual, not being not spiritual, but just sitting, just being, just resting in the unknown in a way. And from there, I discovered something beyond the I, something that is not an I, something that is not a person, something that is very, shall we say, conscious, something that is very innocent in a way, something that is very intimate with life, both active and silent, both in motion and in stillness. So in a sense, this beingness that we are, it's not a meditation. It's not a technique. It's not a path. It's not a journey. You won't be journeying towards it. You'll be becoming it. In fact, the less your journey, the more your journey is dissolving in a sense, the more you'll be embodying what it really is. It won't be of time in that sense. So in this sense, there are so many techniques to tune you into this, shall we say, ever-present reality that's available right this moment. This, shall we say, the suchness of your being, the suchness of life. And in a way, at a certain point, you let go of all journeying, of all technique, of all seeking, in a sense. And it's like this gentle reminder and returning to the source of who you are, the source of experience, the source of eternal. And at that point, it's like there's a whole realignment within the whole of you that is in balance with the insight of the deep, the insight of your source nature. And it's not necessarily something that's easy to describe, it's more something that you would go into life and experience. You would enter into the source of who you are and encounter that like as a raw, vibrant aliveness. Not that you hold on to that and say, aha, this is it, and let's serve this in my life. It's more that it holds on to you, or it enters into what you thought yourself to be and sort of dismantles it. Sort of dismantles who you thought yourself to be in a simplistic way that looks really almost arbitrary. It just sort of takes apart everything that you thought yourself to be and leaves you with the rawness of who you are. It leaves you sort of with what they call your original face, the original innocence that you have. And at that point, it's a very much a dropping of concepts of who you are. Very much a letting go of the whole of who you thought yourself to be. And this is not what you do per se. Like there's not a doer there saying, I will let go now. It's more like a letting go, a happening, like this, a season coming, the spring coming, the autumn coming, the readiness of now coming in its own form at the appropriate perfect moment. And as a directed consciousness, as a mind, if you are in mind, if you think, I am mind, and at that point, if you are in mind and you think, I am mind, this is me, I'm sure this is who I am, and then at some points people feel, I will become more spiritual. This sense of I wants to live more in the present moment, find more of that thing called love, consciousness, Satchitanand, truth, consciousness, bliss, and somehow you tune in either through technique or through teaching or through self-awareness or self-remembrance or devotion, bhakti or right knowledge, jhana, or some form of yogic enterprise that brings you more into who you really are, in a sense, or rather than who you are, it brings you into a crystallized center that is actually able to surrender. Because at certain points you're not able to surrender, when you don't actually have, shall we say, a center. And at a certain point, you become a center, shall we say, through self-development or awareness or evolution or karma. And when that happens, you're able to surrender, and you are surrendered as fifth body, as infinite consciousness, as bliss body, as bliss itself. You are surrendered. And at that point, everything that you brought together is burned up in a way. And everything that you thought as part of your process is let go of in a way. And everything that you built up and took to be truly of value, at that point becomes valueless again. At that point, at the point of real alchemical transformation, shall we say the final transformation, the jumping into the unknown, at that point everything that was useful on the journey disappears, so to speak. And you enter the garden of the beloved naked again. The Garden of Eden, totally naked. Totally without history. Totally without even intention. Even your best intentions are dropped of themselves. You are let go of. The puppet that you held yourself to be and worked upon and related through is let go of. It falls away. And from there you enter the garden of the beloved, totally naked, totally without a priori knowledge. You don't have a foreknowledge of what will happen next. Even the patterned realities that you were associated in the past, even on the exterior, tend to dissolve and be unknown mysteries again. So in a sense, this is Eden consciousness. In a sense, this is your raw aliveness. All the most well-intentioned concepts disappear. And all the stories of how this pain or that pain was hindering your journey also disappear. The best concepts disappear. All the most refined spiritual concepts disappear. And all the least refined concepts disappear of pain and of suffering, and they kept you in bondage. Most concepts do keep you in bondage. But even the ones that you cherish tend to disappear at that point. Entering the garden of the beloved, you just start fresh again. You won't know if you're a vegan or vegetarian or an atheist or a Buddhist or employed or unemployed. But you'll be free. You won't know even if you'll be a good mother or a bad mother or a good friend or a good son or daughter. But you'll be free. You won't know if you'll go out and fight for the environment or save the trees or the mountains or the whales or even care about such things. But you'll be free. You might care deeply about everything. And you might just be a silent awareness that moves beyond all polarities. So in that sense, I'm just going to leave off now today at that point. And I just want to leave it at this, that awakening is not a way of life. It's not a philosophy. It's not a lifestyle choice. It's the very essence of what you are.